Hello and welcome to the TMSS Live podcast, our first foray into the online world of recording and podcasts. We've been trying to do it for some time, but current situations have forced us into that mode. And I'm obviously joined by...
It took a pandemic for us to get our act together.
I was going to give you a massive intro there, Tom.
Oh, sorry, go back.
You just dive straight into it, and
give me the intro.
Oh, okay. You want the intro?
Yep.
Well, as ever, I'm joined by my esteemed co-host and technical guru, Mr. Tom Gilchrist.
Hello. Hey. Oh, it's good to be back on the air. Well, we're not on the air. We're on the internet.
On its internet. Yes.
Yes. Look at us.
How does it feel?
So, how do I feel?
How does it feel being on the internet?
Worrying, really. You know, I've uncovered my webcam. Normally on my laptop, I have my webcam covered because I'm scared it's recording me at all times. So
you have a little sticker.
I do. Yeah. I've literally it's perched out the way at the moment, which will be firmly going back on.
Scared of Big Brother.
Definitely. But no, so it's crazy times. We're all kind of forced to adapt and evolve considering the COVID-19 outbreak. Jay, how are you coping in these very peculiar, unprecedented times?
It's very weird, isn't it? It's very weird. And obviously, you know, we've got day jobs. We don't just do the show. We're not just holed up in some studio somewhere and we pop out every Tuesday night. The day job. As many people think, the day job's been very testing. The company I work for have done everything they can to make sure everybody's working from home, and spent the whole of last week doing the day job from home. And I think the biggest thing is I'm finding it difficult to kind of shut off from that. You know, what point? Because the weird thing is you obviously take it for granted. You go to work, you go to the office, you come home from the office, and you can kind of shut off a fair bit from that perspective. So it is kind of getting used to that kind of thing, because it seems very much like we're in the long haul now. But it's interesting times. It's, you know, people are genuinely worried and fearful. But we're just trying to do kind of carry on as normal, as much as normal as we can. How about yourself, Tom?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Very similar to that. It's very strange being in my flat all the time. Apart from my, one permitted piece of exercise, which I barely did before the pandemic. So,
Yeah, this is true. Have you ventured out at all for your one exercise a day, or not bothered?
Kind of walk to the shop, get lager, and come home again. So I kind of put my shopping and my exercise into one.
Yeah, I did wonder if you could store them up. So if you don't go one day, can you go twice the next day, or 3 times the following day?
Don't know. I don't think we should be encouraging people to do that. Have you been stockpiling? Have you? Is that a stack of toilet paper I see behind you? Yeah,
I'm actually I can't move for toilet paper. Yeah, and kitchen roll. Yeah,
so it's you then.
It is me. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is an odd time, but people have gone crazy, haven't they? People really have just gone a bit over the top. Do you think? I mean, or do you put that down?
I think they were, but I think at this time, the time of recording, what are we, March 29th, and at the time of recording, I think people have started to calm down a bit. There's big queues outside supermarkets and any shops, but I'm all for this procedure to continue after the thing. Queuing up outside, limiting on items.
Yeah,
everyone's quite civil and calm at the moment, from my experience. After the initial panic. Yeah, exactly. They give you a little hand gel as you come into the shop. Lovely.
I think so. You'd rather this continue, so.
Well, not really. But I'm just trying to see the positives in all these things. But hey, so this is our sports and music show, which we normally record on every Tuesday night. Live in the Meridian FM studios at East Grinstead, but of course, with the circumstances, we can't do that at the moment. But so we've decided to just kind of jump in, fill in. If anyone was wondering where we are, we wanted to pop in, say hello, and just kind of cover some of the things we normally cover on the show. So coming up, we'll be talking about obviously the news that the FA have announced that all non-league football between tiers 3 and 6 are going to be expunged. That, of course, affects some of the teams that we talk about, which we'll get to. And, of course, Same for women's football. Any leagues below the women's championship have also been expunged. That affects our local team, Crawley Wasps FC, which we'll be talking about a bit as well. So we're just going to be trying to talk about what we're going to plan to do in the future, what we think about the current things in the sporting world. If you're just joining us, follow us on Twitter at @MeridianSS and on Instagram as well. And we'll try and keep you entertained as these unprecedented times continue to unfold. But how are you coping without sport, Jay? Yeah, I know you are. Well, of course, you're a very big sports fan, and your life is very much built around it. How have you been coping?
It's peculiar. I've even put Sky Sports on hold at the moment because in
terms of your subscription.
Yeah, it's pointless having it, isn't it, at the moment? So it's very peculiar because a lot of the time, and there are times where you go through difficult times in your life, but sport has remained constant. Sport and music generally, from our perspective, is a constant for us. And I know we've spoken about that before. I follow a lot of sports, but with the pandemic growing across the world, and certain big events were being called off and postponed, and different bits and pieces like that. And now we sit here, there's actually no sport going on. There's no sport whatsoever taking place, no gigs. Even bands, artists have chosen to postpone their release dates for albums and different things like that. So it's just crazy, unprecedented times. With no sport, it's just it's why we chose to suspend the show from going out live, because we just had no content. And obviously, we don't want to keep talking about the reasons behind the cancellations and things like that. But now we're at a point where you already mentioned, Tom, that it's going to have a knock-on effect. We're particularly in football where we're pushing ahead through to the year. Euros this year have already been called off, postponed for a year even. So next year we're going to have them. But how far into summer are we going to be playing football? We already mentioned non-league, below national league have cancelled the season. And there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of unhappy fans about it, and players and clubs as well, I think, on that decision. The National League, I think, are about to make a decision later on this week, I think. And then obviously that leaves, the EFL and the Premier League to make a decision. But it's not just football. It's, the Olympics have been postponed as well. It's everything this year. So even if we come out of this the other side, potentially football could come back, but none of the big events are going to happen for the rest of this year, which is going to leave a lasting effect. Obviously it's going to be a massive year next year, everything moving into next year. But I think football is, we talk a lot about football. What was your view on the suspension of the non-league from step 3, which is obviously outside of the National League?
Well, I have to agree with the decision, I suppose, but it is just we've been speculating and wondering what's going to happen. Our league's going to start getting cancelled. Our season's going to be expunged. Now that it's actually happened in some capacity, it's a very strange situation. I mean, so if we can transition into our team, East Grinstead Town, who obviously we cover a lot on the show, how this affects the teams like them. I mean, for East Grinstead, they'll be happy because, at the time of the season being called off, they were 8 points from safety. They'd only played 26 games. That was the second fewest games. Only Chichester City had played less games in the league because of just constant cancellations with waterlogged pitches and things like that. They was kind of drifting further and further away from safety, and but now technically they're safe and they have another season at this level, which it's, whether you can call that an achievement in the circumstances, it's good for them, I suppose, but it would have been sweeter if they could have got a relegation fight and come out of it. And obviously Lee Denham was on our show, the East Grinstead Town manager, saying he was very confident in keeping them up. He's delivered on that. So
obviously not in the circumstances you'd expect, but
but it's something for the CV.
Let's compare that. You're talking about East Grinstead Town and the fact that they're bottom of the table. it's good news for them because obviously they don't have a relegation fight to go into now. They can start afresh next season as such. Lee's got his feet under the table at East Grinstead and got plans in place, so they can start afresh next season. But in contrast to that, you've got a team like Crawley Wasps, who we cover on the show, who are at the time of the suspension or football being cancelled, women's football's suffered the same thing, in that it's not going to be played, it's going to be expunged from the record books. But Crawley Wasps are top of the table, so you're talking, you've got teams across football who have been playing well, who are looking for promotion into the next division, and they probably rightly feel aggrieved at the decision to cancel football.
It is a shame for Crawley Wasps, especially as you say, there's in stark contrast to East Grinstead Town, top of the league, clear by 9 points over Watford, albeit Watford had 3 games in hand. But if Crawley could have kept the momentum that they had from last season, and of course we're showing this season, we've had Naomi Campbell on the show, Tash Stevens. Everything we've heard from that club is that there was a great atmosphere in the dressing room and high spirits. And from the games that we went to, they were playing very well. It really was exciting times for Crawley Wasps, and it really could have been another massive season for them. That's been taken away, and it's a shame. And it's going to be hard for we're just using these 2 clubs that we follow, but at this level, these players and coaches and the staff, it's not Premier League. They're not all just in their big mansions and Instagramming live doing keepy uppies of toilet roll because. And keeping fit in their home gyms. This is I don't want to sound too negative, but it's going to be tough, to keep the momentum, to keep what I don't know about players' contracts and how that's going to get sorted. Keeping the fitness levels with the 1 exercise a day given by the government. I did see though that Crawley Wasps LFC under 10s are still taking their training sessions. They're doing it remotely, which was nice to see.
Really good,
which I guess is just the way forward. But it's good that kids can still kind of get the exercise that they need and the practice that they need. Because this is one of the things I've been thinking of really with all this is that, and there's so much to think about, and there's so many layers to this whole pandemic across the sport. But things that like, academy players, not just at this level, but Premier League academy players, kids that are coming through and will be playing games at this time. They're losing time to develop as players, and we could see this whole generation of players that might get affected by this situation and not be able to get the coaching and the development that they need, which is just sad because but I do feel for Crawley Wasps. It would have been if they could have been in the Championship next season, which would have been amazing. But hey, I mean, from what we've seen, I mean, hopefully. I did think of Crawley Wasps yesterday. The Metro bus drove past my flat with the Crawley Wasps logo, and I sort of wistfully looked at it like, those were the times. But really exciting times for Crawley Wasps, really getting out, and I hope that can continue. And we'll do our bit as well to keep spreading the word really about what they're doing because really it's a shame, and hopefully that once they do get to playing again, they can continue the great momentum that they had.
Definitely, and we just mentioned there 2 massive contrasts between 2 local clubs that we cover. One that's disappointed, one that's probably relieved in a way. You talked about so many different layers to this, and we could go on into perhaps just EFL, National League, and Premier League still haven't made a decision as to what's going to happen. I was reading an article earlier on today about the potential for some of these players, or no matter whether they're professional or not, going to need a mini pre-season to actually get back into the swing of things and get back up to match fitness because like you say, only 1 exercise outside a day. Obviously people have got gardens and indoor gyms and stuff like that to be able to keep, but match fitness is completely different, as we know, and any enforced layoff through injury or things like that affects players. We've seen it. How do you think that's going to affect, because we're expecting the Premier League to come back. I think we're expecting the Premier League and the EFL to come back. Obviously, if there's a bigger decision about it's going to be a lengthier period of time that we're in this situation for, there may be a different decision being made. But it's a massive thing for professional footballers as well, to try and, the mindset and staying kind of tuned into, what the season is going to potentially be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what is going to happen, and if I could hazard a guess, I mean, it's definitely not going to pick up on April 30th. That's for sure.
Agreed.
It's not
gonna, yeah, definitely.
I think they're all committed to, from what I'm reading and hearing, if all the season can be completed by June 30th, then they will.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. So I think, if we can reach that target, if we can start playing by like the beginning of May, I think we can have 9 weeks to complete the season. Maybe I think that's what I've heard. So that's about 2 and a bit months. So maybe you could squeeze it in. But I think what you would have to do is you'd have to cancel the cup competitions. You'd have to cancel the FA Cup. You'd have to cancel the Champions League, Copa del Rey, all the cups across the Europe, and just focus on the league.
Yeah.
Because and I don't think anyone would have a massive problem with that, to be honest.
No. How would you see it if we got to like middle of May and we're still in this scenario and the Premier League and the Football League have to make a decision? If you were in their shoes in that position, obviously it wouldn't be solely their decision because they have to consult all the other teams. But if we're pushing on through May or pushing on for April and no sign of any football being made, a decision is going to have to be taken at some point. Do you think a decision made by the non-league football puts pressure on perhaps the Football League and Premier League to kind of follow suit because they've already made that call?
I don't know. I doubt that the Premier League give a shit about the non-league and what they're doing.
There we go. There's a swear word.
The first swear word on TMSS. We can do it because we're not on radio. Fuck boobs. Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously if it's the thing that's unfortunately if it's the thing that suits and it's the most logical thing, we have to do it. And it's no one's to blame, and it's just is what it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the likes of Liverpool and Leeds, as it's well been documented, it would be bad for them. And and I still can't get on board with the fact that there is a chance that this is not going to count this season. Like it's all just going to get scrapped off. I saw a tweet, and I'm paraphrasing, but someone made the point of, if you wipe history once, it takes all integrity out, and every game you'll be watching in the future, you'll be thinking, well, this might not count. You cancel history once and you ruin it forever. Something like that. So that, and I know that's a very strong opinion in my way, but I kind of find myself feeling that, like, man, like the integrity of it all, like it's somehow we've got to finish this. No, I don't know, but. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is if it can't work, then it can't work. But then maybe this will. I think about the 2022 World Cup being in the winter. Maybe is there somehow that you can just reorder the seasons to coincide with that? Maybe this is an opportunity to do that. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm just thinking as you're talking there, and I kind of was surprised that non-league football took a decision so early. There's no reason why we can't finish this season however long it takes. Euro 2020 has been moved. Not that would have affected non-league anyway, but I think we're having an enforced break for however long it turns out to be. Yeah. Why does football need to finish by the 30th of June? Why can't it just go into the summer and be finished? Finish this season. I'm just thinking.
The main thing is contracts, player contracts, and things like that. Like that, it just becomes very difficult if you don't go past the 30th of June. There's all sorts of admin that's going to have to be made, and it's going to make it it's going to give the FA and FIFA and UEFA a very difficult job, because then players that are out of contracts, insurance and all that kind of stuff that I'm not well versed in, but I think that is the main stumbling block here.
Yeah, It just seemed a logical point that we finish this season come what may, whenever that ends up being. And if we have to shorten next season, i.e. being just like instead of a whole season home and away, then we play 19 games in the Premier League, next season, each team sort of thing.
But again, like you say, but if someone wins that league, then are they champions? They only played 19 games. It's so difficult. Maybe you just put the FA Cup on hold for a bit.
Yeah.
And the League Cup, and there just wasn't any cup competitions for a couple of years, and and no European Cup for a couple of years as well. I mean, once say if we do get to the summer and things have calmed down a bit and restrictions are loosened, I still think international travel is going to be it's going to take a long time to recover. I think domestically we can. So perhaps it might be impossible to do a European Cup next season as well.
Yeah.
So maybe that will help. And we just focus on the league season for a bit. I think that's where presumably most of the money comes, most of the income comes for all these clubs, and that's what we should be protecting.
Well, there's a nice segue because is it this weekend? It was supposed to have been international weekend. So
that is correct. Yes.
England would have played Italy. Am I right? Which and build up to the European Championships in the summer, which obviously aren't going ahead. So it's we're kind of hitting different times where different things will be happening. An international weekend.
I'd be missing an international break, to be honest. I never thought I'd miss it.
No. Well, isn't it weird that it's kind of you don't kind of miss something until it's kind of gone, And I know that's an old cliche, but I kind of think at the moment, I was asked this question earlier, and I kind of think at the moment that it feels a little bit like the summer break.
Yeah.
I know things haven't kind of been finalised in terms of cup winners and league winners, stuff like that, but it kind of feels like a little bit of a summer break. But the longer it goes on and it kind of hits home a little bit that it actually isn't the normal thing, then it's just all very weird, and it's not having any sport to actually reflect on or talk about or enjoy is particularly difficult from our perspective. It affects a lot of different people, of course, as well. And one of the friends of the show, Comedy Beats, Mark, has been on the show a fair bit in recent months to talk to us, and obviously it's affected them as a local community organisation that goes around doing live events, great comedy shows, as we know. Been to a few ourselves, haven't we, Tom?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is heavily impacting performers and people like our friends at Comedy Beats who have had to postpone their shows indefinitely.
Yep.
I've had a message from Windsor just now saying yes, confirming all Comedy Beat shows are postponed for the time being. Just a big shout out to all the sports show listeners, and looking forward to seeing you all when all this is done. And our thoughts are with Windsor and the comedy community, because that's their income. It's taking a. It's frozen for now, which is such a shame. I know friends of the show, comedian Adam Bloom is on Twitter at Adam Bloom. Look him up on Twitter. He's been getting comedians to send pictures of them as children, and he's getting his followers to guess who they are, which is quite good. Nathan Caton as well, who's also been on the show. He's doing regular Instagram football quizzes, which have been quite fun. He's been broadcasting live, so look up Nathan Caton on Instagram. We'll keep all the Nathan.Caton. He's been doing a lot of football quizzes, keeping people entertained on Instagram as well. So we've just got to try and spread the word as much as we can. Really, it's such a shame as well, because this week would have been the first time that our friend Windsor, the founder of Comedy Beats, or the co-founder of Comedy Beats, it would have been the first time of him comparing at the show.
Yeah.
He would have been hosting this Thursday at the Dorset Arms, which we were very much looking forward to. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen now. But no, we just want to say that our thoughts are with them, because they're friends of the show, and this is a very difficult time, and they've been impacted in a unique way.
Definitely, and I have to say, there's a lot of good people out there doing some good stuff. Both online. Obviously, NHS staff are doing an amazing job under so much pressure as well. You've got people in the supermarket. The people that are working in supermarkets are doing a sterling job. Just everybody that's trying to go out, provide a service. You got delivery vans out there. You got postmen, that kind of thing, still doing a job for us all out here. But a massive round of applause to the guys in NHS at the moment who are experiencing something quite different and testing all their efforts. I don't know if you experienced the clap for carers last Thursday, but yes. I was astounded by the reaction of people in this area. I live very close to East Surrey Hospital, and I know it's an area that's very heavily populated with people that work at the hospital. It's it employs a lot of people, but that evening at 8 o'clock it was quite emotional, I have to say. There was a lot of people outside applauding for a good 2-3 minutes, cheering. I thought it was an excellent idea, and I hope they do it again.
Yeah, I would say do it weekly, because it was great. It was nice to kind of interact with the community in that small way. Really, I mean, it's such a small luxury that we've not, we've had taken away from us, that we took for granted, just interacting with our community, and it was really nice. I experienced the same. It was very loud where I was, and it was very moving. So yeah, of course I echo your sentiments, Jay. So it's been good talking to you. It's been really nice to kind of get back to chatting and stuff. I've realised that I've been kind of going a bit stir crazy, even though there's not really much sport to talk about at the moment. It's I need the outlet. I need someone to just ramble to. My girlfriend is only going to put up with so much.
I think the good thing is that if we try and we're going to try make these a bit more regular in these difficult times, and we'll try and get some reaction from the likes of East Grinstead Town, Crawley Wasps, Mark. We've already had comments from Comedy Beats, but we'll also put some tweets out there. Follow us at the Meridian SS. We'll ask you guys to follow us for a few questions in future podcasts perhaps, and we can answer a few questions that are sent our way, and we're trying to get a bit more content for these short snippets, what we hope to be. We have got a few plans for some interesting podcasts coming up in the near future, so watch this space. But I think for now that's probably it from us, isn't it? But unless we ramble on too.
Yeah. Before we go, Jay, what have you been doing to fill your sporting fix? Have you made up a little? Have you been doing a stay-at-home starting 11 with mops and stuff, or have you? What have you been doing?
I've
watching old football, or?
No, I haven't really. I kind of that bores me a bit. I've been progressing with my Score Hero app. I don't know if you've played that.
Oh really? Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That's
okay. Free plug for them.
That's so addictive, that is. And obviously, Football Manager. Football Manager is the one, isn't it? I'm now manager of Crawley Town.
Hey, really? Okay.
I've just been employed I was sacked by Crew. Without extending the pod too long, I was top of the table with Crew after 35 games. Had a terrible run of games. About 7 games, lost 7 games in a row, and ended up sitting just outside the playoffs. And they sacked me with 5 games left to go.
They're a dodgy club, Jay. You know what goes in the back rooms at Crew Alexandra, so you wanted to get out of there.
This is true, but I was quickly snapped up by Crawley Town, so I'm just it's 2 games into the season. I haven't actually played a game yet, so I'm just rejigging the squad there. So I'll report back on the next pod to see how things are going. But how about yourself?
Windsor would be delighted that you're the new manager. He will be.
That's true.
He'd be delighted. He'll be happy that John Yems is gone.
I don't want him to be shouting at me from the back row of the main stand, to be honest.
Speaking of which, what are we going to do with the humble pie that we were saying that Jay was going to, Windsor was going to eat? That's going to have to stay in the freezer a lot longer. People who listen to the show will know what that means. If you don't,
will. Yeah, they will. Nonsense. How have you been spending your time, Tom?
How have I been coping? I have been playing a lot of FIFA Pro Clubs.
Yep.
I've been. I watched the broadcast of England versus Croatia from 2004, which was on BBC yesterday. That was good. I really enjoyed it actually because
Did you hear the rumour that ITV are going to be replaying the whole of Euro '96 this week?
I've heard this. Yeah, I've heard this.
Why would we want to watch that?
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Especially if we know how it ends.
Yeah, they should just. Yeah, they shouldn't. But I watched the Euro 2004. It was where Wayne Rooney really solidified himself as an England great. I think when he scored those 2 goals. I was watching it. So I mean, the starting 11 that England had in 2004 was absurd.
Yeah.
Just Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, Beckham, Owen, Rooney, Cole, Neville. Yeah, it was crazy. What was it? Campbell.
Yeah.
And
that's a crazy lineup. Yeah.
Yeah. And how we didn't win anything with that team. No. It's just depressing. But I found myself watching it. Croatia scored first to make it 1-0, and I groaned. I was like, for fuck's sake, what are you playing at? Clear it. And then just, it was just such a dodgy goal to concede. And I was like, wait, 1 minute, I know what happens. But I'm still getting... When Rooney scored to make it 2-1 just before half-time from 25 yards, great shot, I was jumping up, celebrating, get in there, because it's just amazing to see, watching it from that perspective, knowing that, I remember watching that as a kid, and there was a lot of hype around Rooney at that time.
Yeah.
And when he actually delivered in a big game, England needed to draw or win that game, and he looked unplayable that game. He was so good.
That second, was it the second goal? That through ball from Owen?
Yes. Yeah.
That amazing through ball that he put, and obviously Rooney did the rest, but that ball from Owen was just perfection. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the finish from Rooney, he was 18, and just the absolute swagger to angle his body to look like he was going in the far corner and then tucking it into
one way. Yeah.
Just an absolute genius player. So it was nice to kind of be reminded of that, and then seeing what Wayne Rooney looks like now and how old we all are, it was quite depressing. But in that moment, it was nice to be fueled with the nostalgia of that.
Yeah,
so that's kind of what I've been doing. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of old stuff on YouTube. I watched the film Goal recently.
Oh, what a game! What a film even.
What a film! Yeah, I mean, I kind of started. I was like, this is going to be terrible, isn't it? This is just going.
Have you not seen it before?
I have seen it before, but not. Okay. When it came out, I watched it a lot and I really enjoyed it. But when you watch films that you liked when you were a kid, and you're like, what was I thinking? I knew nothing. But it's a great film. It's cheesy and it's very unrealistic.
Yeah. But do you end up being nervous for him? Do you get the nerves kick in when he's playing? When he's waiting, when he's making his debut and stuff. I'm thinking,
Santiago Nunez, he's so likeable. They've just, I want to get. I've been on classicfootballshirts.co.uk and trying to find a Santiago Nunez Newcastle shirt, but they're very expensive. They're like 350 quid or something.
Newcastle shirt and write it on the back.
Well, I mean, maybe I will. Get some end of season sales and get Nunez on the back. But I don't want any of their dodgy shirt sponsors,
True. Well, it could be end of season now, so
It's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's it for our first podcast. We rambled on enough there, and we don't want to bore people too much. This is TMSS Live. We're starting these podcasts as we can't go in the studio and record live every Tuesday night. So we're going to do a series of these over the coming weeks. So stay tuned. We'll share this on our YouTube channel, and you can get us on Twitter @MeridianSS, and also email us meridiansportshow@sky.com if you want to be a guest, send a question for us, and we'll make these more regular for us over the coming weeks while we're experiencing somewhat difficult scenarios at home. So anybody listening, be safe out there. I wish you well. And those of you that are doing all the hard work out there, for the NHS and elsewhere, then we thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I echo that. Right, take care of yourself. Stay at home. Stay sensible unless you have to go out, and follow the government guidance. That's it from me. We need to have a better end to this.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
Right, let's end it there. Bye.